Yo, what's up guys? Yeah, PokeaimMD here. Today I have my week 6 battle of the Smogon Premier League, a team tournament on Smogon that I've been playing. I'm playing RU this week again. Now, my last week battle versus Wellio, it's not up yet because I plan on recording with him, and I wanted to record with him during the week, but he has exams, so we're going to be recording it this weekend. So my week 5 battle is going to go up after my week 6 battle. But yeah, if you guys don't like this style of narration, because this is I'm going to talk about my thought process, maybe my opponent's thought process, as well as my game plan going into the game and pausing it a lot. You can check out the replay down below. There'll be another video up today. I'm trying to record Road to Rank 1 today, so hopefully that's up later today. Yeah, so you can stay tuned for that. You can check out the replay down below. But Sage has actually been playing UU, this SPL. It's her main tier. And she has not been doing so well. A lot of that has to be because of luck. It is, if you see some of the replays. And I definitely feel for that because I know I feel for that personally. But yeah, she's playing RU this week. And looking at a lot of her builds, I actually built my team. Like, this was my build, which it's not the best looking build, but I was pretty excited to use it because in testing it did well. Like, typically my teammates help me out a ton, if not build the team, and I just adjust something and play with their team. But I actually built my team this week. Looking at a lot of her builds, Rabambi looked really cool. Not necessarily her builds, but her teammates' builds as well, and whoever was helping them. Rabambi looked really cool. Now, I was deciding between Specs and Quiver Dance. I opted for Quiver Dance just because I saw a lot of Escavalier, obviously Metagross, and Fortress, and Fortress and Escavalier, not a lot of Escavalier, but I saw Fortress and Escavalier, so these 4 times weak to fire bugs. So I wanted Quiver Dance as opposed to Specs. That way I can actually switch up moves if something like that ends up coming. So I also opted for Roost because I saw a lot of bulkier builds, and Rabambi can actually set up on certain builds as long as Bronzong and Registeel are dealt with. So I paired Rabambi with knockoff Necrozma. I thought that'd be really nice to help open up that door for it. I have a Spikes lead Roserade, and even though Roserade is one of the best Pokemon in the tier, I have not used it once this SPL, so I figured Spikes stacking would be the way to go. My Blastoise is timid because I want to, first off, be faster than Nidoqueen, but secondly, always either prevent hazards by spinning and whatnot. My Metagross is my Stealth Rocker with a custom set, and my Flygon is Choice Scarf. So, looking at team preview, I know that my Rabambi is going to be really good because they only have 1 Fairy Resist. Besides that, 3 weak to Fairy, and 2 that don't take my Twinkle Tackle. Obviously, the only one I'm leaving out is the Metagross, which also, if it's like a more offensive variant or for Stealth Rocking variant, it still takes around 20-something% from Moonblast, so it's pretty decent, and Hidden Fire does around 30%, so it's really nice versus my opponent. So when I saw team preview, this is automatically what I'm thinking. Okay, Barbarical is usually, if not always, Z, right? So I'm thinking Barbarical is Z, right? Which leads me to believe that Virizion might be either a Combine Leftovers set or a Lumberry Swords Dance set with Synthesis, considering Blastoise is a little bit problematic for my opponent, or a Stone Edging variant too. This is something that also came to mind. You guys will see how that takes to play. The Noivern, I don't think it's Z. I didn't think it was Z at all. I was thinking Choice Scarf or Choice Specs, or either Rocky Helmet. Goodra, either AV, Scarf, or Specs. It could be either of those. Donphan, obviously Stand a Rapid Spin, Earthquake. Maybe Ice Shard, because Zygarde is a little bit problematic as well. And then Metagross, I was thinking either Stealth Rock, maybe Shukaberry as well, because Zydog and a Poison Metagross could be a little bit problematic. So my game plan is to weaken all their Rabambi answers, get in that Pokemon as many times as possible, especially if the Noivern is not Choice Scarf, because then it just comes in for free and just clicks Moonblast. And I really like it, especially if I get up a Spike too. So I'm lead Focus Sash Roserade, and I wanted to lead off with it versus my opponent's team. Now, my opponent ends up leading off with their Goodra. This is very, very good for me because I get to find out turn 1 if Goodra is Choice Scarf. If it's Choice Scarf, obviously I'll outspeed me and hit me with maybe like Fire Blast or Ice Beam. I can switch accordingly. If it's Assault Vest, it cannot bring me down to my Sash for the most part. And if it's Specs, it will bring my Roserade down to its Sash. So we'll find out right here. I'm really happy with this start. So I go for a Spike as my opponent is going to throw off a Fire Blast and ends up bringing me down to my Sash. Now, this reveals that this Goodra is more than likely Choice Specs. I had a choice here, right? I could have switched out into my Blastoise to take that hit, but Blastoise is going to be necessary for tanking hits from Metagross as well as Donphan, so I didn't want to do that. One thing I also forgot to note is that my opponent has Barbarico versus this build, so very, very solid versus my build. But as long as I keep Metagross healthy, which I'm going to do, I can always take a +2 liquidation and knock it out with Earthquake in return after, Spike. So keeping Metagross healthy was very important too. So I figured out this Goodra is choice specs. I decide, as opposed to getting up another spike, because I think one layer spike is really good, especially for Rabami just clicking Moonblast. I decided to go for Sludge Bomb because it puts it in range of a specs Rabami, which I can bluff. And I, unfortunately for my opponent, get a crit turn 2, so very sorry about that, Sage. And that actually puts Goodra in range of a non-specs Rabambi too, so either way Rabambi is safer, as my opponent is going to land the next Fire Blast. I can bring out Rabambi. Like I said, I know that's specs because it brought me down to my Sash. Can bring out Rabambi, just click Moonblast, and I get some chip off on Metagross, and this is so important too. First off, that does a lot. I was really impressed by how much that Moonblast did, because I was running Chaos, I was like, wow, that could either be 0 HP Metagross or max HP Metagross, and it still does it around that range. It's crazy. So that damage is really nice for my Rabambi, obviously also for my Necrozma, because Earth Power knocks it out, unless it's Shukaberry at that range. And because I talked about keeping Blastoise healthy for this, I'm going to go directly out to Blastoise. My opponent can either Meteor Mash to get damage off on something, or Rocks. They anticipate me to switch. They end up going for Rocks, which I don't really care because my spinner beats their spinner, so I'm always going to spin right here. Now, they bring out Virizion. Now, as I mentioned earlier at Team Preview, I am thinking that Barbaracle is the Z variant, right? Because it usually runs Constant to Crush. This allows it to break through literally everything. Like, that's not an exaggeration. They could run Hydro Vortex at points. No, for Metagross, that'd be interesting. But Constant to Crush allows it to break through bulkier Pokemon like Slowbro. It breaks through, Florius, and just a lot of fat, thick Pokemon, right? So, Virizion comes out. When I go for Rapid Spin, I don't see leftovers. So I don't see leftovers. Now, when I don't see leftovers, I'm thinking, okay, this could be Lum Swords Dance, or it could be Synthesis. Leftovers Calm Mind obviously is out of the question too. Now, because Rabambi is so important, I'm not going to go hard Rabambi. Rabambi does take, obviously, Leaf Blade and Close Combat. Not that well. She does not take it that well. It's like 156 defense and like really low HP. But if my opponent has Stone Edge and Rabambi is like my 100% switching, they're going to go for it here. So I actually decided to pivot into my Flygon as they do reveal the Life Orb Stone Edge. So I'm really glad I didn't go Rabambi there. They obviously made, it was a good play because it basically Leaf Blade into close combat, especially from a Life Orb Virizion, hit everything. I could never risk Metagross there because I need Metagross healthy for Barbaracle. Yeah, that was a good play, right? If I didn't scout for that, they were going to get rid of my Rabambi. So I ended up going Flygon. Now, right here, I have to decide if I want a U-turn or Aerial Ace, Outrage, whatever. I opt to go for the U-turn because I think that Virizion is way too important because it comes in on Blastoise, and besides that, they don't really threaten Blast. Like, Goodra dies to Ice Beam at that point. Aura Sphere, Dark Pulse, Ice Beam, and Virizion could still live even a modest Ice Beam after Spike. So I ended up going for U-turn because even if they stayed in and went for any attack, I could go Rabambi there because I doubt they'd double Stone Edge. They either close combat or Leaf Blade. So I U-turn here as I do end up going Noivern, scouting for the Aerial Ace most likely as I can bring out my Blastoise. Opted to go Blastoise over Rabambi because if this is Scarf Noivern, obviously it can outspeed me and hit me with Hurricane or Flamethrower. And Blastoise basically lives even a Specs Noivern's Draco. If it's Z, then Barbaracle isn't Z. Which is good because my Necrozma can live a hit if Barbaracle isn't Z. And basically Blastoise gets me a KO out of the turn. So I can click Ice Beam here as she ends up going out into her Metagross, and at that point, Aura Sphere is a KO. It's a good mid-ground. It hits Virizion as well. So I throw off an Aura Sphere as she doubles out into Virizion on the Dark Pulse, trying to get the +1. So right here, I didn't think you'd Stone Edge, especially because my Blastoise is putting in so much pressure versus my opponent. And even though they have more I don't know if they're necessarily down at this point either because Barbaracle is still really good. So I opt to go out into my Rabambi. Now right here I actually went to get water and I almost timed out. I was choking up a storm, but I went to get water, almost timed out. Ended up going Rabambi because I didn't think you Stone Edge there. There's also that chance of missing. Goes for Life Orb Leaf Blade. Look how much that does. 49%. And I end up clicking Hidden Power Fire here because well, there's two things that can happen here. First off, I can bluff the specs because then that Metagross, like 22, if it's max HP, it takes around the 22%. It did a lot, right? So I can bluff specs if my opponent isn't calcing. And it knocks out Virizion. It also guarantee knocks out Metagross, which after Spike, it might be able to live. Like if she wanted to pivot into her Metagross and go for like a Bullet Punch. So that's the main thing. But it does bluff specs. And it obviously bluffs specs right here because my opponent ends up going out to Barbaracle. Even if they have Protect, which is cool for Golisopod, basically I get off some damage on them and then I can just regular Moonblast them after anyway. So I'm going to throw off the Twinkle Tackle. I end up knocking out Barbarico. That was easily the biggest threat to my team. Now that Barbarico is gone, I can play my Metagross differently. I don't have to keep it super healthy. But my opponent ends up bringing out their Noivern after. This is Screaming Choice Scarf, excuse me. Especially because it U-turned out earlier. What I'm going to do here is just switch out into my Metagross, because if they went for Hurricane, that'd be fine. If they went for Flamethrower, I'd take it. Really well, actually, because I'm Spadef. I'd take it, and I could pivot into Necrozma or Blastoise or even Flygon. So I end up going Metagross. They make the good play, anticipating me to switch. More aggressive. Goes out into Donphan. I'm going to make the Blastoise play because Blastoise literally gets a KO if it comes in or brings Donphan down to Stardy. They get an Earthquake crit. Doesn't really matter. They wouldn't have been able to 2-hit KO me, but I get a revenge crit right here. So, again, it didn't really matter. Like, Blastoise coming in basically forced a KO at that point. So, I can now bring out my Necrozma and click Photon Geyser. Necrozma is faster than Metagross. Goodra has to come out in its specs. And my Necrozma has a little tech. It has the Protect. Little tech Protect, yeah. That was not a pun. It has a tech, T-C-H, not T-T-C, not T-E-C-T, even though we do call it tech. But I can go for Protect versus Goodra, which is really cool because only Specs Draco can knock me out, and Protect obviously lets me scout for that and then switch out to my Fairy type. So I go for Protect right here. She throws off a Draco. I'm going to be able to go out to my Ribombee. She does call that very well and goes out to Noivern. But at this point, because Flygon can literally come out, if you click Flamethrower, I bring out Necrozma. If you click Hurricane, I can bring out Metagross, or I can even bring out Necrozma and just do whatever I want. I decided to just stay on my Ribombee because at this point it's not necessary to win. Literally everything is in range of Outrage too. So I just click Moonblast here. She goes for U-turn, anticipating me to switch. As I said, I was comfortable enough to win, I thought, without Ribombee. So click Moonblast, I pick up a KO, as she's going to go right back out. And I need water again. But she's going to go right back out into her Noivern. Click Hurricane. Thankfully connect, as I can bring out my Necrozma. Now, the reason I brought Necrozma is because I know this thing is Choice Scarf, and Hurricane cannot knock me out. I can go for Knockoff. I can knock off its Choice Scarf, then bring out Flygon and click Outrage and basically sweep. Unfortunately, she does miss her Hurricane here, which only mattered if she confused me. So it definitely did matter. If she did confuse me, it would have actually, and I got fully, if I hit myself, it could have mattered. But I'm able to not get confused. She lands it. Gonna go for the Photon Geyser. Metagross comes out. Turns out this Metagross is cuss that berry. Gonna eat that berry. Meteor Mash me and get an attack raise. This is actually kind of scary because if she gets a Bullet Punch crit here, Flygon will go down. That is if she has Bullet Punch. And my Metagross is not running any speed. So Earthquake at +1 is gonna do a lot. However, I think I could eat it anyway. But I go to Flygon. Turns out she's not Bullet Punch. I'm able to outspeed her and knock her out with Earthquake, and that's going to be a good game. So I'm able to win this week. I thought it was a very good game. I think that the biggest change, or the biggest turn, for sure, was Barbarico going down, because Barbarico was a threat. It forced my Metagross to stay at full the entire game. And then I would have had to deal with Scarf Noivern after. But the HP Fire worked out. Again, it was more so just to guarantee knockout Metagross, not necessarily bluff, but it worked. And I think going Flygon was always the play on Virizion, because if they had Stone Edge, it could have been bad. Like, that was a good Stone Edge play, right? Stone Edge isn't really ran much on Virizion right now. But yeah, I hope you guys all enjoyed. Thank you everybody for watching. I will definitely be back this weekend, hopefully, with a video with Welio. And if that doesn't end up working out, because time constraints or whatever, I'll just end up narrating that battle myself. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching. Hope you guys all enjoyed. I will see you guys next time. Goodbye, my friends.